Excuse me, Chief. Do you have a business card?
Oh. I got a sticker for you.
Oh.
You want a sticker?
Yeah, I'm not really into stickers. Just business card. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you got it. Take care.
Hey guys, this is Andre, Horizon City News. And as you can see, on December 19th, 2023, I briefly met with the Horizon City, Texas Police Department chief. And I had a very brief discussion with him about the November 2nd, 2023 traffic stop that Sergeant Rosas had, conducted with Officer Sierra. There's actually two Officer Sierras. He did it with one of the Officer Sierras, and then Officer Campbell had briefly stopped by as well during that stop. And during that traffic stop, Sergeant Rosas contacted the United States Border Patrol during the detention of the driver and 3 passengers, and he lengthened that traffic stop by a significant amount of time to wait for the United States Border Patrol and then for the United States Border Patrol to do whatever it is they did, which is, it appears to be some sort of, document check and just, interrogation about who these people were. Now this, as far as I'm concerned, this situation that happened on November 2nd, where Sergeant Rosas lengthened this detention, that creates many different topics to talk about, many different issues to discuss. One of the first issues I have is regards the documentation of the stop, which was a traffic citation. At the end of the day, that's all that the driver received, was just a traffic citation for, a broken tail light, a broken brake light. And on that citation, at least the copy I received, there was no written probable cause affidavit. Now, I don't know if in the state of Texas, somehow the lawyers and judges have found a way to make it legal that no probable cause affidavit is required, but I know that when I got a pedestrian not crossing at the proper location, which a lot of people call jaywalking citation, I got one of those back in November of 2018 by the El Paso police, and I got the same explanation about that, which is also a Class C misdemeanor, just like having a broken brake light on a vehicle. I was told by the police department, that the El Paso police, that no probable cause affidavit would be given to me, and that there was none that was required. And I've always been concerned about that, because these Class C misdemeanors are handed out by these police officers, and it seems like they don't have to explain, in writing why they're giving them. They can just simply hand them out, and then, it's just like, they could hand it out, walk away, and not have to explain themselves. I just don't feel that's right. That falls in line with the Fourth Amendment and maybe even the Sixth Amendment when I really think about it. But yeah, that's one of my first issues. That and I could be wrong here, but there was no probable cause affidavit for this Class C misdemeanor, the broken brake light, and I just feel like there should be an explanation as to why this individual was stopped. It should be written by the police officer. And then especially the fact that there was 3 passengers that were also detained, and that's not even mentioned on the citation at all. I made an open records request for all written records regarding this stop. And the only documents I received was the CAD report, which is the computer-aided dispatch report, and then the citation itself. And I don't remember seeing anywhere on those two documents that there was, or maybe the CAD report did have it. I'll have to double check, but I feel that it should be on the citation, or that there should be an additional piece of documentation attached to the citation, just mentioning that there was 3 passengers that were detained during this stop. So anyway, like I said, this particular traffic stop opens various different issues that I wanted to investigate. So I just wanted to go into this, a portion of the phone call that I had with Lieutenant Valdez back on, I believe it was November 23rd. It was like late November. And, she'll give her description of how they do citations. And after that, we'll just watch a quick video about the history of the Fourth Amendment, which goes all the way back to before 1776. It goes back to, all the years before 1776, but a particular year of importance was 1761, when a man named James Otis, who was a lawyer, gave a 5-hour speech about how, the colonists were tired of, British soldiers going into homes without any warrant that particularly described the place to be searched, and, exactly what they were after. Basically the whole history of why the Fourth Amendment was created by the colonists, during and after the Revolutionary War, came from, one of the main places it came from was this man called James Otis. And then in this courtroom in 1761, about 15 years before the Declaration of Independence was written, in that courtroom was John Adams, and he became later president of the United States. I believe the second president of the United States. Anyway, John Adams, he was also a lawyer. And then he had, one of his famous phrases was, he said that during that court case, which was called Paxton v. Gray, it was in 1761 in Boston. He said that during that court case, with that 5-hour speech that James Otis gave, he said that the child independence was born. So that's a famous phrase from John Adams about this particular man in this court case, James Otis and Paxton v. Gray, which was a court case in 1761 in Boston, like I said. So yeah, that'll be just a quick video at the end, just giving a broad overview about Paxton v. Gray, the writs of assistance, and the history of the Fourth Amendment. And I feel that that's important. We'll get into that later, but I wanted to add that to this video because it all ties in together. Even with the smallest issue like this about, someone getting a citation and not having a probable cause affidavit and not having something in writing from the police officer who's making these, warrantless seizures. We'll get into all this stuff later. It gets all complex. We can't cover everything in one video, but for right now, that's what I'm putting up. And let me know what you think. It's one of my favorite channels, 10th Amendment Center. This is a video that I've attached at the end of this video, which is, it's about 10 or 15 minutes long. It's not going to put you to sleep. And I think it's real interesting. I think you will as well. And the channel has been around way, like, back when YouTube first started, like all the way back in 2006. And fast forward to today, this guy keeps chugging along, making his 10th Amendment Center videos, and he just is like the Energizer Bunny for constitutional issues in this country. So anyway, thanks for watching Horizon City News. Like I said, this is just one topic regarding this traffic stop that Sergeant Rosas did back on November 2nd, which involved the United States Border Patrol. And yeah, Happy New Year, guys. It's January 2nd, 2024. I'll be in touch. Thanks for watching Horizon City News. And we'll just go over some issues, like I said, about the Fourth Amendment and warrantless seizures, and the fact that there was, like I said, no record that I saw on the citation about the 3 detained passengers. All right, guys. Thanks for watching Horizon City News. Horizon City News, and I will be in touch. Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. Take care.
And I know you're a busy man, but have you maybe had a? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard about the November 2nd Sergeant Rosas interaction with the 4 men at the Murphy's Express near the Walmart. There's a traffic stop. There was,
Oh yeah.
I believe it was lengthened
Uh-huh.
more than is allowed by the 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I just want to make you aware of that.
Okay.
Is that Sergeant Rosas?
Do you remember the date?
Yes, sir. It's November 2nd.
November 2nd.
It was between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. Officer Sierra, the tall one,
Uh-huh.
and Officer Campbell came to back him up.
Okay.
Sergeant Rosas, he detained a motor vehicle which had 3 passengers and 1 driver, so 4 occupants. The stop was initially because of a broken stop lamp, so it was just like a brake light. And then once he did the initial stop, he then, I guess, I'm assuming, he stopped what he was doing regarding the normal traffic stop, and then he called the United States Border Patrol. Because that is, I have proof of that on video, is that the United States Border Patrol showed up with a paddy wagon and a patrol vehicle. So it wasn't just a regular Border Patrol patrol vehicle. It was, in addition, they brought a paddy wagon as if they were ready to detain or arrest these passengers and the driver.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I had concerns about this is
And Anna, who is the court clerk, that as part of that request you had indicated all. And you know, I apologize for the I guess extended processing time. You know, the best way to describe that. It's just that, like, you know, this whole records request process, like they're still fine tuning it. So, you know, Cynthia was never a dispatcher, so she wouldn't know, like, to read the call card. You know, like, as far as she knows, you just want the call card, so here it is. If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you guys have always been pretty good about doing open records, and as long as you guys aren't deliberately and maliciously trying to keep me from records, then I can work with you.
No, yeah, and then it's when you said the ticket, like, you know, went to citation. Well, there's a citation, but they didn't think to give you the affidavit. You know what I mean? And again, just to explain the process, the way it works is the person, you know, gets issued a citation on the side of the road, and it's on a device that looks like, well, it is a cell phone. It's like an Android, and they're department issued. So then, you know, they get their citation, and then the officer will then hit a button which, like, creates a sync, and then the court gets that paperwork or that data. So then from that data, it generates the actual affidavit, and then the officer is called in to sign it. You know what I mean?
Yes, but
So
the
that's
police officer...
yeah, that's how the... I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but the police officer that issues the citation, which is a citation in lieu of custodial arrest, he is supposed to write a probable cause affidavit himself or herself.
You know what? I'm gonna, like, this is one of those things where, you know, if you want to contest the validity of that, like, you know, you should talk to the city lawyers or make, you know what I'm saying? Because the way it's worked since we've had ticket writers for about 10 years now, and, you know, I'd be willing to, like, bet $1 that it's legit, is that, you know, the device generates, like, a cookie cutter type of affidavit, and then the officer signs to it. You know what I mean? That's just how it works.
Okay, but
it is way above my pay grade to say that they should work or shouldn't work a certain way. So you're more than welcome to, file, whatever grievance you think should be filed. And I can tell you, Andre, I've been working here for 18 years, and I've worked with along other police departments, never at other police departments. But here, the way the tickets work is, like our old paper tickets had like a little pre-made affidavit, like on the back, and you would just sign the back of the ticket when you turned it in. So we've never sat there and typed out an affidavit, per traffic stop, if that makes sense. So I get what you're saying, but also there's always been one. It's just a cookie cutter one, that goes by the, I guess by the date and the location and it auto-populates the violation, and you know what I'm saying? So that's how it works, and I'm just explaining the process to you as part of what it is. And if you feel it's not or it shouldn't be, then you're more than welcome to talk to the chief, make an appointment, or talk to the mayor, or call the ACLU, or I don't know what have you, right? Or see if you can talk to our lawyers from the city. But the brothel system is a pretty standard system in America, and that's the system we use, if that makes sense.
Good morning, and thank you for joining me on the Path to Liberty. This is the Fast Friday edition of the show for July 2nd, 2021. And on this episode, I'm talking about American independence. Not specifically the Declaration or even the war, but a change in the views and the sentiments of the people of the colonies from being mere subjects to becoming citizens of independent sovereign nations. And we can trace the beginnings of that controversy all the way back to early 1761 and James Otis Jr. taking on the writs of assistance. So today I've got a quick introduction and overview of that, plus some highlights from his great speech. But first of all, before getting to that, my name is Michael Bolden. We broadcast live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time from here in my home office and studio in downtown Los Angeles for the 10th Amendment Center. Our show homepage has everything you need to follow this program, all the archives. For about 3 years now, on individual episodes like today's, I'll include a bunch of links and references so you can read and learn more on your own time in context. You can find all the different platforms we're on. We're on a bunch of video ones and then audio-only podcast editions. And then we have our membership program where you can put your financial faith behind our work for as little as $2 a month. And we make it go a long, long way in support of the Constitution and liberty. That show homepage is 10thamendmentcenter.com/path to liberty. It's all spelled out. 10thamendmentcenter.com/path to liberty. And I couldn't be more grateful for you spending some of your time with me today. Thank you so much for being here. Whether this is your first episode or you've been here for every single one since day one, thank you so much. But since it's Fast Friday, I promise to not take up too much of your time. Let's see if I can get this info out to you in the next 10 to 15 minutes-ish. I want to first start out by pointing out that on July 3rd, 1776, John Adams wrote Abigail Adams not just one, but 2 letters celebrating passage of the Lee Resolution, which is what the follow-up was, the Declaration, a couple days later. And I covered that in an episode on June 7th of this year, Totally Dissolved, the Lee Resolution and Independence, where you can get some background and the history behind that and the impact of that on independence. Now, John Adams thought that we'd be celebrating Independence Day every year in the years to come on July 2nd. He was off by a couple of days, but the Lee Resolution was incredibly important, and I do encourage you to check out that episode if you haven't done so already. But anyways, at the end of his second letter to Abigail, he made a point here. He says, when I look back to the year 1761 and recollect the argument concerning writs of assistance in the Superior Court, which I have hitherto considered as the commencement of the controversy between Great Britain and America, and run through the whole period from that time to this, and recollect the series of political events, the chain of causes and events, I am surprised at the suddenness as well as greatness of this revolution. And here from Wikipedia, they point out that this was all back to 1761. It was the 1761 of Paxton v. Gray. And there they say, a group of outraged Boston businessmen, which included Ezekiel Goldthwait, engaged James Otis Jr. to challenge the legality of writs of assistance before the Superior Court. These writs enabled the authorities to enter any home with no advance notice, no probable cause, no reason given, of course, no oath, no affirmation, none of that stuff that came out of it. James Otis Jr., of course, we can call him the founding father of the Fourth Amendment, even though he didn't live to see it ratified. Now, Otis considered himself, they say, a loyal subject to the crown, yet he argued against the writs of assistance in a nearly 5-hour oration before a select audience in the State House in February of 1761. Now, here are just a few of my favorite quotes from that speech. We're getting them from notes from John Adams, who, as a young man at the time, was there present and taking notes on the event. And here, right in the outset, Otis goes right to it. He says, I will to my dying day oppose with all the powers and faculties God has given me all such instruments of slavery on the one hand and villainy on the other, as this writ of assistance is. I mean, this is not pulling any punches right out of the gates. He says, it appears to me the worst instrument of arbitrary power. Now, arbitrary power, if you heard me talk about this, many of the founders and old revolutionaries use this phrase. They saw as a government without limits, a power without restraint, as Samuel Adams put it, is a tyranny. And arbitrary is power that can be changed on a whim. And he says, it appears to me the worst instrument of arbitrary power, not just the bad, but the worst, the most destructive of English liberty and the fundamental principles of law that was ever found in an English law book. And if he makes the point that there's a big difference between a general warrant, an unending warrant, and something that has a special purpose, a specific purpose, something specially named. He says, your honors will find in the old books concerning the office of a justice of the peace precedents of general warrants to search suspected houses. But in more modern books, you will find only special warrants to search such and such houses specially named, in which the complainant has before sworn that he suspects his goods are concealed, and you will find it adjudged that special warrants only are legal. So any broad-based general warrant where they aren't naming exactly where they're going, what they're looking for, is something that they consider to be illegal. And James Otis certainly made the case about this. And he refers to this, he says, the writ prayed for in this petition being general is illegal. It is a power that places the liberty of every man in the hands of every petty officer. Later on in the speech, he actually refers to them as petty tyrants. And then he says, you create a petty tyranny. And he talked about this a little further in an essay a few months later that he wrote for the Boston Gazette in January of 1762. And he said specifically, can a community be safe with an uncontrolled power lodged in the hands of such officers, some of whom have given abundant proofs of the danger there is in trusting them with any? So he's saying some of these have already shown us by their own behavior that they can't be trusted with any power at all. So a community can't be safe when government has uncontrolled, unlimited, arbitrary power. And then back to the speech again, February 24th, 1761. This is one that I think most of you will recognize. He says, now one of the most essential branches of English liberty is the freedom of one's house. A man's house is his castle, and whilst he is quiet, he is as well guarded as a prince in his castle. And he pointed out that one of the problems with a general warrant is that they're not specified. They're never ending. They're open-ended. It's kind of like open-ended so-called authorizations to use military force today, but that's another episode. He says, again, these writs are not returned. Writs in their nature are temporary things. When the purposes for which they are issued are answered, they exist no more. But these live forever, and no one can be called to account. And he's talking about holding government officials accountable as well. And that's a precursor to many of the issues that we face today. And he sums it up near the end, and he points out that no acts of parliament can establish such a writ. He's even saying that even though you've done this, you still can't do it. Even if parliament puts it into an act, we can't have it. It doesn't matter what they've put on paper. Because why? He says an act against the Constitution is void. And while he was talking about the unwritten Constitution, the principle holds true today. An act against the rules that are meant for the government, if they try to do something they're not authorized to do, it is void. And of course, from 1761 through many years later, 1783 maybe, there were many, many actions that were taken to render these types of things null and void in practice. Now back to John Adams. Here he is writing to William Tudor Sr. in March of 1817, again describing this. He talked about this moment in time as being so important a number of times throughout his life. And he says after James Otis's speech, he says, American independence was then and there born. Then and there was the first scene of the first act of opposition to the arbitrary claims of Great Britain. Then and there, the child independence was born. In 15 years, in 1776, he grew up to manhood and declared himself free. And one more time, here's a letter, John Adams to Jedediah Morse a couple years earlier in November of 1815. He said, when the cause came on, however, Mr. Otis displayed so comprehensive a knowledge of the subject, showed not only the illegality of the writ, its insidious and mischievous tendency, but he laid open the views and designs of Great Britain of taxing us, of destroying our charters and assuming as the powers of our government, legislative, executive, and judicial, external and internal, civil and ecclesiastical, temporal and spiritual. This is really, Adams is really laying it on here. He says, and all this was performed with such a profusion of learning, such convincing argument, and such a torrent of sublime and pathetic eloquence that a great crowd of spectators and auditors went away absolutely electrified. So he saw this moment, this great speech, which we really only have notes on from others. This great speech against the writs of assistance has laid the groundwork, the birth of independence, all the way back to 1761. He says, here then, sir, began the revolution in the principles, views, opinions, and feelings of the American people. Their eyes were opened to a clear sight of the danger that threatened them and their posterity and the liberties of both in all future generations. Well, I hope you guys found this interesting. I hope it was educational. I hope you're encouraged to read a little bit more and learn more about this, whether it's just to read through the full text of the speech, the notes, James Otis's personal essay written in early 1762, or some of these letters that John Adams wrote later on. I hope you want to learn more. I hope this was educational, and I hope you have a great Independence Day weekend, whatever you're doing, whether you're spending time by yourself, with family, with friends, you're working on a project, doesn't matter. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today. If you want to support the show, you want to help us spread the word, there's a few free and easy peasy things that you can do to help us spread that word. Smash the like button. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform. Leaving comments, especially in the archive, sharing links, subscribing, getting notifications, all that stuff triggers mainstream platform algorithms and tells the platform to show the program to more people. And of course, if you want to put your financial faith behind a work, as I mentioned at the outset, you can get our membership. You can sign up for our membership for as little as $2 a month. We also have annual 5-year lifetime memberships where you can get one of these pretty cool 110% Tenther cards. That's all over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/members. Again, I really appreciate you spending some of your time with me today. I hope you have a great Independence Day weekend, and I'll see you next week here on the Path to Liberty.